In this video, we are going to talk about shape layers. If you take a look over on the right side of your screen, you can look at the layers palette and you can see that there are some text layers. There's a few layer groups, and you can see I'm going to target the ground layer. I'm going to grab the move tool and just move it. And you can see that this ground layer is a rectangle. It's a green long rectangle. Notice in the thumbnail, the layer thumbnail, you see this square at the bottom. I'm going to zoom in on that. See that guy right there? That is telling you that it's a shape layer. You see the sky is a shape layer. I'm going to move that. It's just another rectangle. If I open things up, say for example, the tree group, you'll see I've got different additional tree groups. So I'm going to target, say, tree 1. I grab the move tool and move it around, and you can see that that is another combination of shapes. If I open up that group, you'll see it is the polygon, a triangle, and then a rectangle. Together they make the tree, and I've duplicated several of them. By the way, if you want a little quick way to duplicate, notice I've targeted that group. I hold down the Option key, I click and drag, and I get another one. Pretty amazing, huh? That'll save you a lot of time. How do you get these shapes? Well, it's pretty easy. I'm going to go to the File menu, create a new document, use the default Photoshop size here. I've got this blank document. Down here over in the near the bottom of your tool palette is the shapes, rectangle tool, rounded rectangle tool, ellipse tool, etc. So if you want to draw an ellipse, you grab that ellipse tool, and you can draw it one of two ways. You can either click and drag, and then with the rectangle tool and the ellipse tool, automatically a properties palette will pop up for you, which is pretty convenient because once you've drawn it, it allows you to make some changes to the stroke or the fill color or the size or the position on the canvas. And you can experiment with these. I'm not going to spend too much time here because we really don't use shapes a lot in Photoshop. Photoshop is primarily used for pixel work. If you are doing a lot of vector work, which is what shapes are, a lot of vector illustration, you're going to want to use Adobe Illustrator for that because it's much easier, much better, much more robust for that kind of design. But we do draw rectangles and ovals and stuff like that as part of some graphic design or graphic design elements in our work. So Photoshop gives us some basic tools to do that, and that's what we're looking at right now. So I can come here and click on the color and change the color. You'll notice the stroke. I can click in here and type a different stroke size. I hit 12 and then hit the return key. There is another way to create a shape. I'm going to close this properties palette for a second. I'm going to click down and up, not click and drag. And you'll notice I get a dialog box that allows me to dial in the width and the height. So if I wanted a specific width and height, say 1000 pixels wide and let's say 500 pixels high, I hit OK and I get that exact shape, width, and height dimensions. I can even use a different unit of measure. If I click down and up again, and instead of 1000 pixels, let's say I want to think in and use inches, no problem. I can just say, hey, I want the width to be 4, and instead of px, type in for inches, come over here and 2 space in, hit OK. Now it's 4 by 2 inches wide, and it's exact. So you can do this with any of these other shapes here. The rectangle tool, I can click and drag and change the color, etc. Change the stroke and all of that. Or I can click down and up and dial in the exact width and height. Now, one other thing I want to draw to your attention with these shapes is if you grab over here on the left, you grab the move tool and you target layers, you're going to be able to move them just like you do any other layer. You target the layer and then you move it. Now make sure you have this up here in the upper left-hand corner where it says Auto Select. When I'm working in Photoshop, I'm going to have this off. If you have it on, whatever you click on, it's going to automatically select that layer. That's convenient in some circumstances, but I would recommend you not do it. Make sure that auto select is off and get into the habit of targeting the layer you want to work with. So in this case, I'm going to target the ellipse 3 layer. I've got the move tool. I click and drag, and no matter where I click, I'm going to be moving that object on that layer. Here I target the rectangle, I move that, and of course if I want to reorder, I can drag the layers around. Now, one other thing I want to tell you about shapes is you can edit the shape. I'm not going to get into this too much, but if you want to specifically edit the shape, you can do so by grabbing the direct selection tool. Now, before I do that, let me back up and say, in any of these, you can still do the Command T, the free transform, where you can resize it, rotate it, etc. But what I'm talking about, when you want to mess with the shape, you want to modify the shape, if I grab this direct selection tool, this white arrow, and with the white arrow I come over here and I click on that, you'll notice that I get access to these control points on the shape itself. These are what define the shape. Now, these are curved points. They're anchor points. They're called curved anchor points. We're going to get more into this, a lot more into this, when we get into the pen tool. So don't worry about it now. If you want to mess with it, that's fine. But if you can't quite figure out what's going on with all of these, don't worry about it. When we get to the pen tool, believe me, you're going to have a lot of experience with it. So for this part, the part about shapes and shape layers, that's all I have for you. In the next part, we're going to talk about the text layers.